Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. Today, we've got two brand new decks for you, a review of two cards from the season, because today is your last chance to get them, your questions, a look at the meta discard deck, and so very much more. Let's get started with today's episode. But before we do, I'd like to invite you to hit that sub button. We are so close to 7,000 subs. We're trying to get there before the end of the year. We might get there even sooner than that. Let's go hit that sub button. We bring you at least two, usually three new decks every single weekday and often Sundays. We do bundle reviews, shop guides, everything you need for your journey through Marvel Snap to be as smooth and happy as possible. Help us out. It's completely free to you. Join us. Ring that bell. You won't be sad you did. Next up, we do the biggest giveaway in all of Marvel Snap every single month. Today is the last day to enter. I'm pulling winners tomorrow. Well, technically later tonight, but I'm pulling winners for this giveaway coming up tonight. So make sure that you get into this giveaway from this channel. You can get 5 season passes. All you have to do is sub and comment any video from last Wednesday to now. That's 5 videos. There's 5 season passes being given away. If you sub and comment on any of those videos, you're entered to win. Each video you comment on is another chance to win. You can also enter on my Twitter. Check the description. And Marvel Snap Zone, same deal. Check the description to the video. Finally, last thing in the description to this video that you really want to know about is I maintain with a viewer named Banshee. How you doing, Banshee? A really great resource for the community. It's just a list of all the different people that do giveaways. It's every active giveaway that we could find in Marvel Snap currently. This way, you have every chance to win possibly. We get no benefit out of this. I mean, I'm on the giveaway sheet, but like you're watching the video, so whatever. It's just a resource so that you can help get some free stuff and hopefully find some really great content in the process. Our format for today, we are going to go over questions of the day. Then we have a deck from Jet. Jet, courtesy of KM Best. KM Jet is one of the best deck builders in the game. Whenever he comes up, he's like the deck builder's deck builder. All the best players think he's completely brilliant. He's won major tournaments. He's come in second in the top 8 major tournaments. Phenomenal player. Has a brand new deck that's only going to get better tomorrow. Stay tuned for why. We've got our Martyr final thoughts and our Ms. Marvel final thoughts. We've got a Teebs deck. That's a Martyr deck that I've been crushing with. And Teebs herself got 2 Infinity borders with that deck. Next up, that's not a bundle review. We actually have a pro tip for number 5. Then we've got Meta Monday for standard discard and a look at my shop. Number 5 is not a bundle, it's a pro tip. Be ready. All right, our questions of the day. Our first question, Good Dog Gamer asks, what drives me to keep creating content every day? Where does my passion for the game and community come from? Okay. The first thing that drives me is the idea that I can't. Um, the idea that I don't have time for this and that this is like this hard thing to do, I like pushing through that kind of thing. It's scary. And for me, there's two types of fear. There's the type of fear that can kill you or do you severe emotional or physical damage. Those are to be avoided as a general rule. There's also the type of fear that forces you to grow as a person. And that's what continually doing this does. It forces me to grow, um, put my thoughts into words, and be a better thinker. Plus, my life is I don't know how to put this besides stressful. I teach full time at my job. I'm basically like the go-to for a lot of the kids' problems. So there's a lot of that going on, and I have like 1,000 union meetings. Tomorrow, for example, is parent teacher night, the same night as the patch and the new season kickoff. And then I've got like 2 union meetings the next day, and then the union meeting after school today, and then things come up all day. And like I've got a son who's a great kid, but extraordinarily hyperactive, and my wife who's just lovely. But I've got a lot going on at all times, and this gives me a release. It gives me a thing that's low pressure that I can do, that I can see direct results from. A lot of the times, so in Letterkenny, one of my favorite things. I guess we can do. both Letterkenny and Final Fantasy IX. So I'm going to reference two completely random things that I think are both important to me. In Letterkenny, at some point, someone asked for help, and one of the characters doesn't want help, and said, "When a man asks for help, you help him," and that's it. And the Final Fantasy IX thing, it's actually Zidane or Zidane, I don't care. That's its quote. It's you don't need a reason to help people, and you don't. I like to help people, and I like to hope that the value my content provides is helping people. Um, the feedback I get seems to confirm that, and like I'm not changing the world here, but I'm doing my best to like I through the union, through my job, change the world in bigger and more meaningful ways on a day-to-day basis. It's nice to have a game that I can let out some of that emotional energy. My passion for the community comes largely from just everyone's extraordinarily nice. I deal with a lot of very kind and very helpful people that just want to get better, that want to help. Occasionally, I run into someone who's rude and I just sort of don't talk a lot to them, but I get a chance to make new friends and be there for them, and there's a lot of value in that. Um, and then like the video every day, like the money's nice, but I'd be lying if I said that was a huge motivator. It's a motivator, right? But it's not like the main one. Um, Watching people obviously find value in what I do is very rewarding. It's rewarding on a day-to-day basis with the kids. It's rewarding doing these videos. So I know that like, hey, maybe this video someone new will find it will really help them. If you check any video every day, there's people going, "Thank you, I hit infinite with this. Thank you, I've been a better player. I hit a new high rank, this, that." And that makes it worth it. That makes me come back again tomorrow with another video. Then a mess. What about the following system for titles? King of Control equals win. That should be win up with 50 games with control deck, and you get a gold border on it. I love the idea. I've got, I think, an even better one. I think character specific. So win 50 games with Spider-Man and get with great power comes great responsibility. Win 50 games with Daredevil and get Man Without Fear, etc., etc. I would love that. I think it would be amazing. They don't even like that they could do this so simply without monetizing it. It sort of it works like achievements on a console game. I think would be stellar. I think that this is an absolutely fantastic idea, Venom. I love it. I'll see if I can get it passed along to second dinner as an idea because like it's free. It increases the enjoyment of the community and builds goodwill toward the game, which I think sometimes this sorely needs. Blade Solar wants to know what I'm getting the kid for Christmas, and that's nice and simple. I am getting my son Mario RPG and a new bed, and then a bunch of other things like some plushies and stuff. He really loves plushies. We are also going to go see AEW. I don't know what it's called, whatever their pay per view is on December 30th as part of his Christmas. So he's going to be a spoiled little fella, but he's an only child, and I love him very much. His name is Noah, by the way. Uh, that's what he's getting. Next, my question for you all, and I'm going to shout you out on Wednesday's video, not tomorrow's video. I've got to make that in advance, but Wednesday's video. If you get anything right, what changes do you want to see in tomorrow's patch? What changes do you expect, and what changes you want to see? One change we're going to get is the Phoenix is going to work properly with multiple man. Right now, only the original Phoenix can move after multiple man. That is a bug. Every clone of Phoenix should move, whether made by Nico, multiple man, or cloning Vats, whatever. They should all move. Right now, only the original Phoenix Force can move. Obviously, that's worse. That's significantly worse. But Phoenix Force is still an extremely powerful deck, and Jet hit top 5 in the world with it. This deck is sick. Cam featured it. Longtime viewers know I absolutely love Phoenix Force. It's one of my favorite cards in the game. This deck is brilliant. It has, I mean, it honestly has like 3 different game plans. So you've got the I can make Deadpool if I eat Deadpool a couple times and then play Taskmaster, right? Because you only have a couple eats. Right? So you play Deadpool hopefully after Forge. That's now a 1/6. Then you after you eat it right with Carnage, and then you play it again, and or sorry, you play it again with Hulkbuster, and now it's a 111, and you eat it into 122. And then you play that, and you play Taskmaster, and you have 222 power cards. Should work relatively well. Nico gives you an extra destroyer or an extra copy of Deadpool or whatever as necessary. Beyond that, you can kill multiple men and drop Hulkbuster on it, and then move it with Ghost Spider and Doctor Strange. That's going to win you a reasonable number of games of Marvel Snap. It seems silly, right? But 8 power, when you're moving it all over the board, just gets big fast. And of course, the Phoenix Force game plan, which is eat multiple men with Carnage Venom, and then Phoenix Force it and drag it all over the board. You can even Hulkbuster it and then play Taskmaster for extra good times. All right. Ghost Spider or Nico can be Iron Fist, but you really do need one. And of course, you must have Phoenix Force. If you have Phoenix Force, though, this is a relatively cheap deck. This is like Exhibit 1A on why you just buy the damn Season Pass. If you just buy the Season Pass every month, not only are you far closer to collection complete, but you already have Ghost Spider and Phoenix Force, which means you probably had enough resource to pick up Nico when Nico is around, which means you can build this deck. Um, general play patterns, and I'm going to start spreading this around. Jet is the deck builder. All the best deck builders, whether it's like Alphos, whether it's KM, whether it's Lambie, think Jet is brilliant and does totally unique and fantastic things. Odie loves them, everybody. All right, turn 1 forges over Deadpool. Turn 2 is multiple mana Deadpool, depending on what you have in hand. I tend to prefer multiple man, but either way works fine. Turn 3, eat it. The nice part is you don't really have to commit to Deadpool till turn 3 if you have Carnage in hand, because you can go Forge on 2 or Forge Deadpool on 2 and then Carnage. Pretty damn nice. Eat it, and then you either Force or Hulkbuster on multiple men, or you drop Hulkbuster on Deadpool. If it's Deadpool, you eat it one last time. If it's multiple men, you start moving it around. This is when you move it once for itself and once with Ghost Spider, and then just try and drop whatever else you can for some decent stats. And then you end with hopefully a fairly empty lane that you play Doctor Strange in, and all of a sudden that fairly empty lane has 24 plus 3, 27 power in it. And you win. Cool. That's the game plan. Strange is so freaking good here. I really, really, really want to fit Cloak into this deck, but I couldn't quite yet. I have another version of this that I built with safety earlier today that runs Werewolf. We're going to talk about that on Wednesday. We're going to make Wednesday Phoenix Day because I think Phoenix Force after the fix is going to be insane, like completely busted. Quick variant talk. This is the Penny Arcade Deadpool X Force Forge. We've got 2 Peach Momokos. We've got both Ghost Spider and Doctor Strange as a double Peach. We have only 1 hip. That's why the hip Phoenix Force is here. The whatchamacallit, Steampunk Hulkbuster, Jacinto, Venom and Carnage, Midnight Suns, Nico, Lucha Taskmaster, Pride Bundle America, and Sporty Multiple Man. I think I'd like another Multiple Man soon, and I may upgrade Forge if there's a Hellfire Gala one that shows up in my shop. Final thoughts on some cards. Our first card to talk about our final thoughts on is Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel, for anyone who doesn't know, will be a Season Pass card tomorrow, but for now it is the Season Pass card. So 4 or 5, ongoing adjacent location where cards have unique costs have +5 power. So it's usually a 4/15, it's almost always a 4/10. It's one of the best cards in the game. There are not 10 better cards in Marvel Snap than a 4/15. It's better than Doctor Doom. It's better than Elsa is now. It's better than the only cards I can think of that I'm sure are better than it right now are Loki and probably Werewolf. Like, I think it's got a real claim for being better than Werewolf. This card is completely freaking insane. If you can at all afford to buy Ms. Marvel today, do not wait just because it's going to be in Spotlight tomorrow. That is a terrible idea. Buy this card. You will not regret it. It's one of the best cards in Marvel Snap. Full stop. If you can afford it, buy it. I think there's a real case that this is the second or third best card in the game right now. That's a card you want in your collection. Spend the money. Get it if you can afford it. Next up, we've got final thoughts on Martyr. This is Martyr's last day in Spotlights. Martyr is a 1/4, Series 4, 3,000 tokens at the end of the game. Move to a location that loses you the game if possible. Okay, no one bought Martyr but like me and like 5 other people, it feels like. And Martyr's not like great or broken, and you have Ant-Man and you have Hawkeye, but sometimes you're already running Ant-Man and Hawkeye. And sometimes Martyr's better than Hawkeye and Ant-Man because you're not going to fill a lane, or you're not going to, or it's the last turn and you can't play that Hawkeye there. Seriously, honestly, no joke, Martyr is excellent. Martyr is okay, that's too strong. Martyr is good. In certain decks, like the next deck we're going to look at, Martyr is just a good card. You're filling every lane 90% of the time. I have literally never had her move and lose me the game. Not once. Streamer Johnson put her in a Thanos deck. Literally, not once did he have her move to lose the game. You just play well. You play to plan where you're going to play. You drop her on one if you need to, and then you know that you're fighting for that lane if at all possible, and you'll be fine. I've lost lanes with her in it, but guess what? I was going to lose that lane anyway. That 1-4 made it more likely I win that lane. Is she better than Annihilus? No, that's absurd. Is she even close to touching Ms. Marvel? God, no. I think she's better than Gladiator. Gladiator is more likely 3-7 lose me the game than Martyr is 1-4 lose me. At least in my experience. I think Ms. Marvel is a good card. Should you buy her? No, probably not. There's a lot better cards, and resources are scarce enough that I don't think she's worth it. But if you have an abundance of resources and you're just like, this is bad and I don't need to bother, you have an abundance of resources, grab it. You'll be surprised at how effective she is if you put her in the right positions. And the single best position I found to put her in is this Teebs deck. Teebs has gotten 2 infinity borders with this deck. I took this through gold personally and used it a bunch on ladder right at the beginning of the weekend. Then I ran out of time because, family. This deck is brilliant. It is fundamentally saying I'm going to just pump up my ones. Like Martyr is a 1-6. Like Ant-Man, Martyr, and Hawkeye as 1-6s are amazing. Dazzler is often a 3-9 in this deck. Shauna's putting power all over the frickin' board. And with Goose and Armor and Echo, you're able to shut opponents down just enough to win. When you need to go wide, Dr. Doom is here for you. Nebula can be Iceman or Sunspot, though you admittedly lose a lot. Nebula Blind is one of this deck's strongest plays. Sometimes she just wins a damn location that way. Martyr can be Iceman or Sunspot, but you're gonna be sad if you do. Um, that extra 4 power is just huge. She wins games in this deck. Echo is the most important of these high series 1 cards for the deck because Ms. Marvel is so freaking good. Echo mid can just steal the game, and people still don't see Echo. I had a game where Echo hit a Devil Dinosaur last turn. They just dropped a Devil Dino there. Echo slapped it, and I won. I was like, oh, thank you. Echo can be Iceman or Sunspot, or you can add Forge or Nico for these cards. All the more expensive stuff is nice and low series. Okay, this is very matchup dependent in this deck. Like, you're going to struggle like crazy with Destroy unless you can get that armor win. Although I did beat Destroy in my Gold Conquest run. I read their Null a couple times. I held Echo until turn 5. And then I figured out where they had to play Null, and that's where I dropped Echo. And then I won. I also managed to armor early on their Wolverine Deadpool plays and just leave them sort of struggling for points. So there's ways to win. So turn 1 is Nebula in a blind spot. Turn 2 is generally Armor or Goose. Goose is so good. In a lot of the meta, like a Dark Oak deck that doesn't see Zabu, you get Goose. That's like a 1 lane. There's just a lot of different decks that Goose straight up rolls the face off. Turn 3, Goose mid or Echo mid or Dazzler. The reason why Goose or Echo mid is because Ms. Marvel is 15 power, and if you can make her be played in the left or right lane, then she's 10 power, right? If they dropped Zabu onto, obviously Goose mid is not the priority anymore, and now Echo mid is. Never Goose and Echo in the same lane as a general rule. The cheap ongoings aren't really the problem. You want Goose to stop big stuff in one lane and Echo to stop Darkhawk or Devil Dino or whatever in another lane. Turn 4, Khazar. Turn 5, Blue Marble. Turn 6, you hand dump with Shauna last just in case Zero shows up to ruin your day. Zero has beat me several times. Zero beats me as much as anything else. I really wish they would just take Zero or Maw, if not both, out of this damn pool. But what are you going to do? And if you have just a little space left, then Dr. Doom wins. Dr. Doom is often really good. Dr. Doom, as 18 power with Blue Marvel already out, is a lot, right? Especially if you already have a bunch of powerful ones out. So, that is how you play this deck. It's really, really good. I know it doesn't look it. Trust me, it's good. Play it. All right, we have Ant-Man hip, Hawkeye hip, Nebula hip, Martyr hip, Goose hip, Dazzler hip, Shauna hip, Kazar hip, Blue Marvel hip. 9. That is, I believe, our all-time high in hips in a deck that's not built to specifically be hippie. So that's awesome. We also need a variant for Echo, one of the last like 6 cards in the game. I'm looking for a variant for. This has my favorite armor, and I usually run Emperor Doom, but because of all the hips, I thought Baby Doom was a better fit. So Baby Doom it is. Marvel Snap Pro Tip number 10. Don't lock your turns early. Try and breathe before you hit and turn for as long as possible. Wait. Especially don't lock in turns if you don't know if you plan to stay or retreat and if an opponent snaps. So that the heuristic I have is I go, okay, I think I know what I want to do. I go, then I stop and I every time I go, okay, what do I do if they snap? And I don't hit end turn till I have that answer. Once I know what my answer to that is, I'm comfortable hitting end turn. And often as I'm thinking about that, I will change my play. It makes you better to do this. Once you've decided, then you can end the turn. It's Marvel Snap Pro Tip 10. That one comes from the great Browday, Marvel Snap Bugle, Marvel Snap News, multiple time tournament winner, but it's one I've personally taken to heart. My biggest leak, or one of my biggest leaks, is I rush through games. I always play everything quickly. And here I even speak quickly. Slow down, stop, go. Okay, what do I do if they snap? Do I retreat? Do I stay in? Do I snap back? And as you're thinking through that, look at the board, think about what they have, right? And as you do that, it's a huge level up. You get better at Marvel. I'm not going to lie and say I do this every time, but I do this in things like Conquest. I do this in things like high leverage games as I'm getting closer to 100, etc. It really, really helps. And if you're struggling in the lower ranks, I bet you this is a level up that helps you. Finally, for today, we are going to take a look at discard. Discard. This is the standard list of discard Dracula. We're going to go over what cards are in it, how to play it, and then how to play against it. So the basic gist of this deck is it wants to use Morbius and Dracula as low cost, high power threats. Wolverine is ahead of curve. You have a bunch of swarms, which add up to decent power when you have them in multiples. Dakin is a 3/8. It's just an ahead of curve number. Hellcow is a 4/8. Is still really solid, although you would generally prefer to just Modok. Modok is the most efficient discard engine in the game, and Apocalypse gets really, really big. You have a greater likelihood of seeing all these key cards because you run America Chavez. Dracula plus Apocalypse to end the game is an extra 2 power for Morbius and an extra 4 power for Apocalypse, and that is crazy strong. That's right there. I believe a 20 power Apocalypse, and usually a lane your opponent just wants to abandon. Okay, replacements. First off, Modok is an absolute must-have for this deck. You can't play discard without Modok, although if you look closely, the only other high series card is Dakin. So if you have Modok, seriously, if you have Modok and you have Dracula and you're early series 3, you have Modok and Dracula. Nothing else here is required. Everything else required is series 2 or below. You can play this deck. So if you open Dracula, spend some tokens on Modok, and you're set. All good? Dakin is very good, but just as good as Storm, and Iceman and Nebula often replace Blade in different versions. Iceman is the highest win rate, but I think that's a fluke of lower sample size. All right. Turn 1 is Blade when it makes sense. If you see an Apocalypse or a Swarm at the end or a Wolverine, you can drop a Blade. Turn 2 is almost always Morbius if you have it. Turn 3 is Dakin or Colleen Wing. Colleen Wing is pretty good if the lowest cost card in your hand is the Swarms. If you can go Colleen and Blade, now you have 4 Swarms in hand, which is pretty damn good. Dakin's also fine here. Of course, turn 4 is Dracula. You can also go Dakin and Blade here, or Morbius and Colleen are also often a play. If you don't have Dracula yet. Turn 5 is Modok. When you can, again, that empties the hand, leaves you only Swarms, America, and Apocalypse in hand. Remember to dump your Swarms earlier if you're not going to have board space to play all of them. If you think they're going to Professor X, for example, Swarm is a great counter to that. It's almost always America and Swarm here. Sometimes it's Apocalypse and Swarm, and letting, like if they've abandoned that Dracula lane, you can just let you can play the Apocalypse, which is likely bigger than 9, in a lane that you think is competitive, and let Dracula chuck the America and win you the lane that way. Just America and Swarms is often 15-ish power at the end of the game, though. That's often enough to win a game. Sometimes you bump everything up one and Modoc on 6. Modoc on 6, the last card left in your hand is Apocalypse, uh and then as long as you don't have Swarm in hand, and you know you won't draw Swarm, or you've already played it, because America is your last turn draw, Apocalypse will always be discarded. Works out just fine. Alright, playing against this deck. Can you compete against the Morbius lane? If you can't, you need to abandon it. Ongoing hate helps. Morbius is often 10 power, but it often enough it gets stuck at 8. If it's gonna get stuck at 8, are you screwed? If it's gonna get up to 10, you can Shang it, you can Rogue it, you can Enchantress it. You're fine. Be wary, however, Mobius is dangerous. Can you go over a 20 to 24 power Dracula lane? Adding more cards to their hand or Mobius helps. So something like playing Mobius will keep those swarms stuck in their hand. Mobius, not Morbius here. Mobius will make the swarms still cost 2 and keep it stuck in their hand, while and that just like rocks the face off this deck. While playing a card like Master Mold or Maximus to put cards in their hand means that they don't always discard the card they want. They'll often end up discarding a junk card, and then you can win that way in the Dracula lane. Other than that, Dracula is really hard to beat. Like, very, very hard to beat. I don't have a wonderful answer for what to do about Dracula. Usually, I abandon the Dracula lane and try and win the other lanes. But because opponents know that other lane is often Morbius plus Modoc, and that's like 18-20 power right there. So you need to be able to go relatively big in power. However, if you can get a card like Goose down and Mobius is in a different lane, you're in relatively good shape. It's very hard for them to really compete in that other lane. One lane often ends at 17-18. That's the Morbius Modoc lane. I strongly suggest you identify what that lane is to win. You have to win the other lane that's 12-ish, 15-ish. That's the Swarm in America lane. If you can control a lane and win a lane early with Storm or Professor X, that's great. You'll often win. Storm and Juggernaut rock the face off this. You Swarm wherever they haven't Morbius, and then you Juggernaut that out, and now they have only 2 places to compete. You need to figure out how to go as tall as you can in one of them. Know their curve and what they aren't hitting. We've just went over their whole curve. If they're playing things off curve, this is like the exact turn for turn curve. If they're playing things off curve, you need to know when and where. And because their curve is so important to them, Iceman can be back breaking. Taking the America play away, for example, by hitting Modoc is really great. Making Dracula cost 5 is really great. Making Mobius cost 3 often screws up their whole hand. Iceman here is a backbreaker. Spider-Ham is also great mid-game. It's usually not going to have Apocalypse. Apocalypse is at the other end of the hand. But the card that often sits in hand is Dracula or Modoc. And hitting either Dracula or Modoc is absolutely backbreaking. The last card that's really, really helpful here, well, I mean, if you can Cosmo their Modoc, obviously you're in great shape, right? But the last card outside of that that's really, really helpful here is Magneto, because Dracula is such a house. If they're not going to fill the board with swarms, pulling their Dracula somewhere they're already winning often is backbreaking and wins you the game. Lady Deathstrike is really good against Dracula, but like a bad card overall, so probably not worth running. Discard is really great against decks like Loki that want to play mid-range games. It's pretty damn good against Darkhawk, although disrupting its draw can mess up its curve. But if it hits what it needs to, it's good against Darkhawk. It's good against mid-rangey stuff. It gets just tall enough to usually win that matchup while staying under a lot of like Shang-Chi shenanigans. It is, however, weak to things like Destroy that just can go way over the top. I just beat it in Conquest with the Phoenix First deck a few minutes before this because it couldn't do anything about my insane powered Phoenixes, right? It doesn't really interact with you, so if you can go over it, then you should be fine. It's not terrible into Shuri Red Skull. Shuri Red Skull that gets the perfect draws and just go over the top of it, but if it doesn't get the perfect draws and you do, then you win. So like sure Red Skull beats it, but not like perfectly. It is again weak to things that go taller than it, not especially weak to interaction and mid-range stuff that a lot of Marvel Snap is. All right. One last look at this deck. This is one of my favorite themed decks in the game. I've got the Jacinto Apocalypse. I'd probably buy the hip at this point. And I've got the Noir Colleen, who doesn't really fit the motif. But everything else, Blade, Dracula, Hellcow, and Swarm are hips. Oh, and Sif are hips, so 5, not bad. Then we have Baby, Morbius. Oh, and Dakin, so 6. Baby, Morbius, Wolverine, and Modoc and America, and then we just have those 2 extra cards, Bali and Apocalypse. So very cool. I think this is one of my coolest, like altogether looking decks. I'll be honest, I don't play it often. It's not my style, but it is extremely, extremely powerful. Finally, we have our variants of the day. I have Baby Electra. I don't need Chibi. We've talked about Deadpool recently. I have 3 great Deadpools. I'm not buying another anytime soon. I have Hip for Warlock. I have Hip and a gold season pass Spider-Man. Kang is one of the last cards I don't have a variant for that I need one, but I don't spend gold on pixels. Polaris is one of the cards, one of the 2 cards in all of Marvel Snap that I have a pixel for and not another variant. But coming out later in December is this Rian Gonzalez Polaris, and I'm buying that. I bought Agatha. I love this hip Agatha. I saw it recently. I was like, oh my god, why don't I own that? Showed up in my shop. I nabbed it immediately. In doing so, I filled up my little buy a bunch of cosmetics bar and got the Alex Harley Enchantress. I now have 7 freaking Enchantresses. Really wish I had hit something else, but I'm up to 7 Enchantresses at this point, which is an unnecessary number of Enchantress. It is cool, however, that I got Enchantress, and I'm showing this Polaris that is also a green clad lady. So here we are. All right, that's it for today. If you made it this far, you got to hit that sub button, got to ring that bell. You don't want to miss out. Tomorrow, I've got like 8 or 9 different decks coming for Sebastian Shaw and a review of all the spotlights for the month. We'll also be doing giveaway winners. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you then. Peace.